Hello everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Bitcoin Trade. I'm not going to do too much chart analysis, although I do have a chart up here uh, for Bitfin, um, just because they're the leading by volume in US dollar to Bitcoin trade. So in this episode, I want to talk about my experience, something that I want to share with everyone. For anybody who don't understand or don't quite understand what trading in Bitcoin is about, or how it's changed my life, or or just an outside perspective. Anybody looking from the outside, looking into the virtual currency, virtual reality, the Bitcoin ecosystem, whatever. Um, the people who are, I guess, I don't know how to say this again, but the non-believers are, I guess, is the best way to say it. There's going to be believers and there are going to be non-believers. People who accept and people who reject this idea of what Bitcoin represents or means or symbolizes. So, and I want to do is talk a little bit about my experience and my opinions on certain things, to give the non-believers an inside view of what it's like to believe in something that does not exist, that requires you to go into virtual reality or an alternative reality or a different reality, and within that virtual reality, alternative reality, or different reality, how you interact in that particular reality. Okay, and I know it may be hard for some of you, the viewers, or whoever, to kind of see it this way, or maybe it's real easy. Mainly this is for anybody who are basically non-believer. I'm trying to reach out to non-believers, because right now you're the majority. All right, you're the majority, and you know, I'm going to try to reach out to you guys, or to you people, to the non-believers. And my goal is to make you, or try to, I won't say make you, but my goal is to help you understand what makes, particularly for me, Bitcoin's unique, and it's very special. Okay, so in my previous episodes I mentioned some really crazy ideas and really crazy things, and I'll just recap them. you know um, I've said many times Bitcoins don't exist at all, and to a certain degree that is true, because they don't exist. Okay, and the only way we can keep track of something that doesn't exist, basically nothing, is through the blockchain. So that's how we're keeping track of who has nothing, right? Who sold nothing to who, or who traded nothing to somebody else. So this is a weird idea for non-believers, or people who don't understand, who don't normally deal in cryptocurrencies, is the idea that you're buying and selling nothing. But you are buying and selling something. But if you just look at it from a non-believer perspective, um, you're just buying and selling nothing. And it almost looks like, now, and when I say non-believer, it could be someone who just doesn't understand cryptocurrencies or Bitcoins, or it could be someone who heard about it but don't know what it is. or it could be um, maybe perhaps a government entity who wants to do more research into it or understand it better for whatever reason. Now I'm going to give you that inside view. I'm going to give you the inside out perspective of what Bitcoin means to me and my personal experience. And I'm going to try to convey that through you through this medium. So let's recap some of the things I talked about. Bitcoins don't exist. Okay. So really, you're buying and selling nothing in some ways. Okay, so what else did I say? I mentioned the invisible hand. What else did I say? I mentioned the day of reckoning and the days of reckoning. I mentioned a lot of crazy stuff, going into outer space, colonizing planets, just a lot of interesting things. But what makes it possible for me to think about these things and even do these things or even try to do these things is that it's once you start selling or trading, once you start getting into bitcoins, and for me it's bitcoins because that's all I deal with. I don't deal with any other cryptocurrency other than bitcoins. Things start to change in your life. Now, why did they change in my life? Because my perspective of what's real and what is not real became how can I say this? It's made me question what is real and what is not real. What is the real reality and what is the virtual reality, or what is the alternative reality, or they both can be real. The physical world of this physical reality is real, but at the same time, an alternative reality. It's real too. It's just an alternative reality, other than maybe the one reality that you think this reality is. And I know that's kind of out there because I mentioned virtual reality, right? I mentioned like a book called Get Real. Well, I've read some of that book, and I've actually ordered it. Bought a used one for like $5 or something, and waiting for it to come in. But what I've read so far really made sense to me, because I'm experiencing some of those phenomenon or some of those experiences when I deal or trade in or exchange, buy or sell, I don't know, invest, divest, in bitcoins. And one of those experiences that I'm experiencing is that I can't distinguish between this reality, the physical reality, if that's real, if that is the real reality, and the alternative reality, the virtual reality, or the different reality that I enter into through, I guess you could say through this computer, but really it's through the immersion of whatever I'm immersed in, and the different way I receive the reality, virtual, alternative, or the real reality, whichever one. I mean, for me, it's become a different reality. It's not one's real and the other one's fake. they're pretty much all real to me. I mean, I can't distinguish one from the other, as one being fake and the other one being not fake, or real, or one's being not real, or the other one being real. And you know, it, it's somewhat mind-blowing because it is mind-blowing, and it opens up so many possibilities. So many possibilities. Like, I'll give you an example. In virtual reality, um, you create your world the way you want it to be, the way you see fit, and that's pretty powerful. It it's powerful for several reasons. The main reason is that you realize that you can become a co-creator, or even creator, right? You're able to create things as you see fit in the way you think things should be done. And that's pretty powerful. This idea for an individual to have, because it means that they can make a difference, they can make a change. And the second thing is, this is all by my free will, and that's really important to me, because when I'm forced to do something, I know then it's not free will. I'm not a willing participant. And that's different. It feels different. It may not even be different, but to me it makes a big difference, because you might as well just put a gun up to my head and tell me to do XYZ, because most people do want to live, right? So, or at least survive beyond this point, to get to their goals. And I have a very specific goal in mind. And so it almost feels like you're being forced. And that's disturbing to me, that I have to be forced into using an instrument of debt, because all that's going to do is enslave me. And I don't want to be a slave anymore. I want to be free. I want to have that free will. And for me, trading, investing, buying, selling, whatever, using Bitcoins, it's a vehicle to that free will in some sense. It allows me to enter into virtual reality, and in that virtual reality in which I create my world, or I create it or co-create it, because a lot of things I've read in Get Real, it makes a lot of sense that you can have the virtual reality becomes reality, in the sense that you interact with virtual reality, or a different reality, an alternative reality. You can interact, and those interactions are reflected in what happens in virtual reality. I'll just say virtual reality to make it simple. And it's not just you going one way, it's a two-way street. And when you open that portal and you enter into it, other entities can come out of that portal. Other things can come out. So, for example, when I enter into Bitcoinia, and I come out of Bitcoinia, I come away with the value of Bitcoins. And I'm in this alternative reality, and then I use that value that I extracted from mining in virtual reality. So I'm literally mining Bitcoins in, I guess you could say, cyberspace, virtual reality, alternative reality, and it gets kind of really interesting. It almost seems like, and this is gonna get weird. I know this is gonna get weird, but just stay with me. It almost seems like, how can I explain this in a way that everyone can understand without getting too freaked out? It's almost like you're making contact into another alternative reality, another dimension. You open some kind of portal into another dimension where things are different. The laws of any country, any state, any nation do not apply, because in virtual reality, or in the alternative reality, or in this other dimension, it almost seems like there's other entities, and there are, like just how I've entered into Bitcoinia, quote unquote Bitcoinia. I'll just call it Bitcoinia for obvious reasons, but that's my alternative reality, and it's real to me, and I can't distinguish the difference. I really can't. Not because my body's shriveled up into nothing and I've gone into cyberspace or some kind of weird bullshit like that. It's because I've immersed myself into this virtual reality, this alternative reality. And through that immersion, I've entered into Bitcoinia. And in Bitcoinia, you can only do this. You can only get into Bitcoinia by your free will, and only by your free will. Nobody can force you or make you do this. No government can't make, well, I guess they can make laws, but they can't enforce these laws when you're in virtual reality, when you're in Bitcoinia, because it is outside of their jurisdiction. So this episode I'm trying to get to is, how can anybody have any jurisdiction in an alternative reality, in a virtual reality, to a virtual entity? So what I'm trying to say is, when I trade Bitcoins, the physical entity is here, wherever I am. If I'm in Canada, I'm in Canada, the physical entity. If I'm in Texas, I'm in Texas. But in virtual reality, in virtual reality, I am literally everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And that's kind of weird to think of it that way. I'm not even on planet Earth, okay? I'm not in the US. I'm not even sure where I am. I can only say it's, because I trade Bitcoins, that I can only say I've entered into Bitcoinia. And I've done it by my free will alone, that I've entered into Bitcoinia. No one has forced me. There's no law saying that I have to enter into Bitcoinia in order to trade Bitcoins. There's no government in Bitcoinia. Um, it, you, and I'll just say Bitcoinia, okay? Um, in Bitcoinia, every entity, and when I say entity, um, that means a natural person or any legal person. I don't know how a legal person can really enter into it, but mostly natural people, like real people. Like I've always said, what if you are a real person? What then? Um, every natural person um, has an absolute free will in Bitcoinia. They can do whatever they wish, because you become, I guess, what you want to be. And that's pretty powerful to know that in this alternative reality, this virtual reality, you can become whoever you want to be. You can become who you want to be. There's no restrictions. There's no no limit. It's limitless, and it's to infinity. And I'm just trying to tell you my experience with it. And it may be hard to believe for non-believers, and I don't know what to say. Um, it's an experience more than anything else, more than any law or any jurisdiction or any creed or any other belief that you may or may not have. It's just a different way of life. And in my reality, um, I feel empowered. I feel like I make a difference. And in Bitcoinia, I guess that's true for me. But it shouldn't only pertain in that reality, what I can do and can't do, or what I wish to do. I wish to bring that into this reality, because both realities are real for me. They are very, very real. And unfortunately, in this reality that I'm in, where where you are and the jurisdiction where you are and the laws apply and everything, it kind of makes everything seem, well, insignificant. Because, excuse me, I guess it doesn't matter. You're going to be listening to me for the most part. It kind of makes everything insignificant. Like, um, someone makes a law banning Bitcoin. What do they really do? They just banned nothing. You banned nothing. Or if you're putting restrictions on cryptocurrencies or virtual currencies, if you're talking about specifically Bitcoin, you're putting restrictions on nothing. So I think it's only fair that if you're going to try to restrict or regulate or do something in regards to cryptocurrencies, or in my particular case, Bitcoins, I think it's only fair that you understand how can I say this? How Bitcoins are very real to people, in my opinion, especially me, because this is my experience. I'm just dealing in it, and I'm dealing with all these different things, and um, you know, like I said, I can't distinguish between the virtual reality and this reality because they're both real to me. They are very, very real. And so I'm trying to convey to people who don't understand uh, what it means to have ownership in Bitcoin, because having a Bitcoin means something. It really does. And if you ever seen my episodes, um, you'll see the transformation take place. And it wasn't like, someone came up to me and said, "Hey, come to this meeting and we're going to talk about some crazy ideas and we're going to do this." I haven't met anybody. And the people that I do meet, I don't really get into this kind of conversation with them. And the people I trade with, I don't even ever meet. I don't even meet them anymore because there's no requirement for me to meet them physically, because what's happening is we're meeting or we're interacting virtually. So we're interacting in an alternative reality where I have to admit, in this alternative reality, I don't know if any laws apply other than the law or the will, your absolute will. Those are the only thing that really apply in this virtual reality, is your will to do what you feel fit is right. Now I know you're probably thinking, well, what about those terrorists? What about those pedophiles? And what about the criminals? Well, I have to accept the fact that in this virtual reality, in this alternative reality, alternative universe, alternative dimension, whatever you want to call it, that they have free will. They too have absolute free will. And what they do is up to them. The good thing is, other than exchanging ideas, exchanging thoughts, exchanging concepts, beliefs, faith, no one can physically harm you. That's only in the physical reality. In the virtual reality, you can influence. You can do that. I mean, you can interact, but again, nothing physically yet. But in the future, only the future. Who knows what the future holds? Right now, we're interacting virtually. But one day, I mean, we could interact physically through a virtual medium, and I think that's quite possible. That could be very real. remote operation, telepresence, remote telepresence, remote teleoperation. These are all things that I read in Get Real. I think in that particular, what I read so far from that was, I remember this is written in 1990s. So if you want to compare some of the technology or inject the technology that's available today, I mean, you can do a lot more. And beyond that, tomorrow you can even go further. You can take possession of maybe a robot or an actual cyborg or an android, like a robot android, not your phone or anything, and be on the other side of the physical world. Now you got to ask yourself, and this is going to open up a whole bunch of things. Well, what jurisdiction are you in? What laws of what country and what nation and what state would apply to you? So this is going to get very, very interesting as time goes on. This whole idea of virtual reality, the jurisdiction of virtual reality, and well, only time will tell. I don't know. But I'm starting to see a lot of things start to unravel here. And I just want to share some of those ideas with my viewers because I think it's important for you to get an alternative view of what Bitcoin means to me. Another thing I want to talk about, and I'll this will be the last part, which I'll talk about, is and this is also in Get Real, about taking possession of other people's body. It kind of talks about that. I didn't read the whole thing. I read what was available, and from what I could tell, it's very similar to what is kind of being done in virtual reality, or is being done. I've experienced it. I understand it. When I make a trade with someone on the other side, it's almost like again, and this is gonna be creepy for some people, and this may freak out some people who are on the outside looking in. Okay, but you have to understand that this is totally. I don't know if this is even technology. I mean, technology is used for this, but this is a concept and an idea that can be used without technology. To a certain extent, it's being done right now through physical human interaction every day, right now. So I want to talk about programming, and this particular programming I'm talking about is not HTML or whatever program language. This programming is different. I'm talking about programming people and how virtual reality is used to program people. How also it's being used in reality to program people in this world, in the physical world. So, just like a computer programmer that writes code, well, like a human programmer that writes code, you can take possession of other people, and they have to do it willingly. They have to allow themselves to willingly give up their bodies for that possession. And I say possession because it almost seems like you're possessing somebody through virtual reality. And you know when I say this, it almost sounds like um, you know when I it almost sounds like I'm talking about some kind of demonic possession or stuff like that, you know, like really strange stuff. But I'm not. Okay, it sounds like it, and some people may get scared by hearing me talk about this, but please understand that you know no one is possessing or taking control of you without your consent. You have to understand that. So don't think people are just possessing other people to do things against their will. Remember, virtual reality is about absolute free will. I mean, that's just my opinion. That's what I'm experiencing. I cannot make anybody do something on the other side of this computer. Okay? But what I can do is that I can write a human program code. Okay? So I can input into this computer a code for the human mind to the other willing participant on the other side. And usually it's done through text, right? Like all, you know, codes, languages are done right now. So in the book of Get Real, it talks about modalities and how a recipient receives the modality or the message and how they receive the message. And that's what I'm talking about when I say human programming. You can write a human program code if you understand the language to a recipient on the other side. The recipient receives the programming. Now, they may not know what the programming is, but they are, how can I say this? They don't have to know what the program is. Alright? All they have to do is be a willing participant. And you write the program, they input the program, and their output is the action. And when you have that output, you're able to get an input and then able to give an output again. So it's not just one-way programming. It's still a two-way program. Okay? But if you don't understand this language, this code, this program code, then you will be programmed. You're the recipient. You're the slave, so to speak. Now, I truly believe this is being done right now through different mediums in the physical world. Okay. Let's talk about a few ways. Well, first of all, institutional education. All right, or formal education. What else? Social quotas or the social acceptance of what you do. I mean, there's so many ways that you are programmed, literally, and you can get stuck. You can literally get stuck. You can become a slave. And not only, and I mentioned this before about debt being the instrument of debt. Let me see, how did I say it? The instrument of debt is enslavement, or something like that. And the instrument of credit is, I would say, Bitcoin, and you're trading your credit for debt. So you're trading your freedom. So if you're, most of us have sold our freedom to be slaves, in my opinion. And now that I realize that, what I like to do is I like to reverse that process, and I want my freedom, or at least my free will, given back. I want to take that back. And so that's what I'm trying to, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, is I made a choice. I made a choice to be free, or have my free will back, so I can enter into Bitcoinia and be absolutely free. And that's what's compelling me. That's what's driving me. And it's not only just a figment of my imagination, it's real. And it's very real to me, and it's so real that I want to bring it to reality. I want to bring it into this world. I open that portal. I open that gate. I've entered into it. Now I want to take that reality. I want to take that alternative reality, that virtual reality that I made, that I created, or co-created, because there's other people in there too. There's actually other entities. Whether they are an actual person, I don't know. I don't know what kind of entity. When I say entity, I mean it could be an individual, or even a virtual entity. And there are such things as virtual entities, okay? Just as much as there are an entity of a person, there's also a virtual entity. And you gotta, and this gets into AI, artificial intelligence, and all that stuff. But the best AI that I know is not an AI. All right, it's the best the best thing, or the closest thing to an artificial intelligence, is another person, a living, breathing person. That's the best thing close to an artificial intelligence. And I guess I could argue even to some extent that a person is an artificial intelligence. I mean, or I can compare it to I mean, they're very similar. I mean, an autonomous. Okay, we're all autonomous. We make our own choices. We make our own decisions. Ideally, we have free will. We're not forced, whether by law or through violence, or whatever means, social stigma, social discrimination. We are not, at least I'm not forced to do something. I have that free will, and it is my absolute free will in virtual reality that I do these things. So, you know, if anybody wants to understand what it's like, at least for me, but I believe the people I trade with and the people that I interact with on the other side of that trade, they're trying to do the same thing, and they really are. Now they may not knowingly know what I know, or they may have a different idea, or they may receive the message in a different way, which is fine. Because remember, every person could be looking at, you know, everybody can be looking at the same thing, and we could all walk away with something completely different. But my point is that trading in Bitcoin is not just an investment for me. It is more than that. It is beyond that. It is beyond the scope of any government. It is beyond the scope of any state. It is beyond the scope of any jurisdiction. My challenge is, and this will always be my challenge, is to bring that reality into this reality. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but that's what I'm doing. I am bringing an alternative reality into this reality, and I'm going to make that alternative reality, my reality. I want it to be the real reality, because I can't distinguish between them. They're both real. And if you gave me a choice, well, I will choose the reality that I like to deal with, that I like to be a part of, not someone else's reality that's forced onto me. Seems kind of weird. I'm willing to. I am willing to go all the way. I mean, there's no, you can't be halfway in, halfway out. You're neither here or there. You're either going to be for or against this. And that's what Bitcoin does. I mean, it really exposes the believers and the non-believers. That's all I can say. Do you believe that these Bitcoins exist? Because I've said Bitcoins don't exist at all. Okay? You have to believe that they're real. And only at that point in time, I mean, your belief in something that doesn't exist makes it real. It becomes real. It's such a weird thing to talk about this and to say this stuff. But I've mentioned a lot of weird stuff. But, you have to admit that as crazy as it sounds, it's plausible. Or if it's not plausible, my goal is to make it real. If Bitcoins don't exist, well, I'm going to make them exist. I'm going to turn nothing into something. It's such a weird idea. But anyways, my battery's running low, and I think I talked long enough. Hopefully, I don't know who's watching my videos. I don't even know why you're watching my videos. But if you are and you're getting something out of this, I hope it helps you understand more about Bitcoins, more of what it means to own a Bitcoin, and to interact with Bitcoins, and what it means to create your own reality, your own world. And you can bring that world from a virtual reality or alternative reality or out of your own mind and make it real to see how you see fit. Absolute will has to be your choice. You have to be a willing participant. You can't be forced. I wouldn't say you can't be forced, but I'm sure people will try. Right now, a lot of governments are trying to force you out of Bitcoin. They're trying to force you into something that I would consider not real. It's an illusion, and that's money. That's fiat currency. That's stuff that's backed by your government in some shape or way or form from a central authority who creates money from nothing. So, if I'm given a choice of what reality that I choose, I would choose my reality over, in something that's been imposed on me or that's been forced onto me. Remember, what I'm talking about is I'm talking about buying and selling nothing. How do you regulate nothing? It's almost like saying, well, we're going to regulate air. Well, air is something, but how do you regulate air? It just flows around freely. Are we going to just build up a wall all over the place and just suck up all the air? It's kind of weird. Anyways, this concludes my episode. I know this is not what you expected. You're expecting probably a chart analysis and let you know where the price is going and where to buy or sell. Well, once in a while, I'll throw in one of these kind of episodes where I don't talk about any of that stuff. I talk about some crazy ideas because you've got to be crazy. You've got to be crazy to trade Bitcoins, because remember, you're trading something that doesn't exist. You're trading something that is nothing more than your own belief, your own faith in something that does not exist. You can't touch it, you can't see it, but deep down inside you, you know that it's real, because you can't distinguish from this reality to another reality. Alright? I can't distinguish what's real and what's illusionary. And the more I get immersed, the more deeper I go, it becomes everything I thought was real is becoming more and more of an illusion. It's becoming more and more fake. And the deeper I get into it, the more this reality that I'm in, the physical reality supposedly I'm in, doesn't seem real anymore. And the alternative reality, the virtual reality, seems more real to me. That's the only way I can explain it. I haven't read all of the book of Get Real. I read some of the parts, and I have to say I'm very fascinated by it, and I have to admit that there's some things in that I am experiencing. And so, I guess I'll tell you more about it when I read it. But I find it very fascinating. I find some of it to be true, because I'm experiencing it. I'm living it. I'm doing it. And so, for anyone who has an outside perspective looking in, this is crazy. This is nonsense. There's, you're probably thinking like, there's got to be something more going on than what's on the surface. There's got to be. But the more you dig, the more you start shifting through, the more you investigate, the more you get into this, it may question. You may have to question everything about what's real and what's not. What is illusion and what is real? And right now I have to tell you, I can't distinguish what's real and what's not. What's illusionary and what's not. It's really hard for me to do that. And I don't know if I'm going crazy or I feel like this is what I feel. I feel like I'm being emancipated from slavery. I'm being freed from a world that I did not create, a world that I don't really am happy with. And I want to bring an alternative reality into this world. A reality where I think it's more real than this. It's different. It does threaten other people because their reality is being threatened. Their way of life is being threatened. And I'm sorry. I don't mean to intrude on other people's reality, but you have to understand what's compelling me. And what's compelling me is that there are things that I'm experiencing that I can't explain other than these are the acts of the invisible hand at work trying to, I don't know, communicate an entity that is trying to communicate. I don't know. It's weird. It's strange. But I hope this helps, and or it may scare the pants off of you. That could be true as well. But you know, if you trade in Bitcoin long enough, I know some people out there, and they're miners typically. They just see this as, a way to make money. That's all they see it as. This is just a money thing for them. And I have to admit, when I first started this, that's what it was like. But but for but for some reason, I'm getting a different perspective on this. I'm getting a whole different idea on this. And not only I'm not just a pass through. All right, I'm not just here to observe and just go along with the plan. I'm here to bring a different reality into this world, and I'm hoping that that reality is accepted, or can be accepted. It may not be. I may be persecuted for doing this. I may even be prosecuted for doing this. But spreading my idea and having my ideas, becoming legal in the respect of different, jurisdictions, it's a challenge. I can only say that, when it comes to virtual currencies and Bitcoin specifically, it really has to reveal. It really makes other people, other countries, other nations, other states reveal where they stand. And I mentioned this in previous episodes of, if you look at that map, remember that map I showed you? The believers and the non-believers, you can clearly see who believes and who don't. And I have to tell you, not everyone's going to believe. And they're going to be left behind. I really feel that the non-believers will be left behind, and the believers will go on forward, and they'll be, I guess in some ways, I feel like I'm going to be rewarded. I'm not being rewarded by any physical or worldly possessions or anything, because all that means really nothing to me. I'm just using it to achieve a specific goal. My greatest reward is to see this thing come true. Literally, I want to bring Bitcoin into reality. I want to build an ecosystem for Bitcoins. Just Bitcoins, no fiat currency, none whatsoever. And I want the people who are hardcore into this, or who are believers, I want them to be rewarded, just like the miners are rewarded with Bitcoins. People who've been believing in this reality, they should be rewarded as well. And I don't know what that reward is, but for me, it doesn't even matter. If this reality can become real, that's just a reward in itself. And that's how strong I feel about this. and I really am willing to take it all the way, all the way. It's almost like I mentioned this before. You know, you've when you go to the new world, you don't have a backup plan to go back, right? Your mission and objective is not to fail and head on back home. Your mission and objective is to, see this thing through to the very end. To the very end. Um, and well, we'll just see. We'll just see. I'm sorry for this very long episode. I'm sure it's boring the hell out of you. Again, it's free will. You don't have to watch this. Uh, Feel free to like, dislike, leave a comment, or even a video response. You know, anybody out there watching, let me know what you think. I don't know who's watching. Could be another person who trades with me. Could be law enforcement. Could be anybody. Could be maybe people who want to write laws about this, or I, I don't know who's watching. But if you are, leave a comment. Say something. I mean, I'm saying some radical stuff here, and all you're doing is watching. I don't know. Anyways, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye.